I'm not saying that sacrifices shouldn't be made,
Mm-hmm.
but you also just, have to choose a priority. There's only ever gonna be one priority. So you have to just decide ahead of time what that is. And if it is gonna be your parents, then you're choosing not to have a good relationship with your spouse or your kids or whatever. You just have to make that choice ahead of time.
Right. Well, and I think it should be viewed as a season and not as like a priority choice, where like there's seasons of like really beautiful, productive life with people, and then there's seasons where they just are. It's like a shitty time where they are like at the doors of death, but I still feel that it should be our responsibility to shepherd them through that.
I do too.
So, and that's where it's not necessarily anybody in this room, but as a culture, I feel that we have outsourced that responsibility.
Oh, like with retirement.
Yeah.
I feel like this conversation has like I'm focused on the like presence of families in the here and the now. Like I don't feel like we have any conversation.
No, I totally understand the here and the now, and like prioritizing that is more so like that I feel has created a distinct line that has been to a detriment.
Because you're coming from thinking of like indigenous cultures and how the elderly is like.
Well, just thinking about my pawpaw in general. So
Yeah.
like we experienced. My dad took 3 months off to like spend with him because he had the ability to do that, which was really.
Yeah, he chose that.
Right. But nobody would have taken care of him.
I think you're like misunderstanding me. I feel like that is that's wonderful and noble for him to choose it, but he chose it. So what I think is basically a lack of boundaries is doing
That's
it,
fair.
not choosing it, but doing it because you don't know how to say no. And you don't know how to set the boundary. And so it's completely out of obligation and you're only resentful. You're not at all.
I think there's still a thread there that's connected. It's not necessarily two different conversations, but I agree with pretty much everything you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just that I think that by creating this ability to not take an obligation,
Yeah.
you outsource pieces of life that you're supposed to be stewarding.
I see what you're saying. Like not everybody had a choice before.
Right.
But what we had before is not always better. I mean, I don't necessarily I think most of what you're saying is true, that yes, we should care for our family and everything like that, but it's also a wonderful blessing that we don't have to completely disrupt our lives because our family is sick. Also because they're sick for a lot longer. We would not be able to have lives because they're sick for 20 years as opposed to, a year.
I think, chronic illness, that's hard.
Right, I mean, that's like long-term care is such a blessing. It's such a so many people don't have that, and if you have that, that's awesome. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not, and especially because your family can still care for you and love you as much as they can, but voluntarily.
Right. I guess I was trying to put myself in that person's position, though.
The sick person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but
where would you want to see and spend your time and be with people that you love and have spent your life investing in? And we've created opportunities that, if you do it responsibly, awesome. But most people don't.
I guess
It's like leave it and forget it. Where you go visit like twice a month and you don't. And then that creates a bigger fear of death among the young people because they don't experience it with the next generation going into it. And so we have built.
I guess I've just only seen the opposite of that. But I hear stories of that.
We are in a weird time though where like back in like when this entire mindset and culture was developed, people died and it was like that, and it was not like people lived, to be, I don't know, 50, 60, maybe even 70, but like, you have people living frequently now to, in their late 90s and like,
It's gonna be normal.
and like, and a lot of times, as a result, you have like the chronic illness thing. It's super common for people to spend the last 10 years of their life with chronic illness,
Right.
or whatever, and so.
20.
Sure, yeah. So it's this weird thing too, where like now we're in this now we insist as a society on keeping these people alive, because it's the right thing to do via medicine,
Because we can.
or because we're too guilty to,
Well, I think it's connected to not being okay with death.
Yeah, you're totally right.
I think it's people are scared of it, and so they push a not fulfilling life that's really painful for 20 years instead of trying to live it out for 5 and being okay with it. And so people are afraid to cut it off because they haven't gone through those processes
Yeah.
and aren't like, it's just part, it's like it's a one-way ticket once you get here. So, and we push that out of our mindset, we push it out of our life, we push it out of all of our daily rituals, and it's to our long-term detriment.
What would it look
Totally.
like bringing it into our daily rituals?
I think not being afraid to talk about it. There's a fear around talking about death, and we run into this a lot.
Oh, yeah. I'm terrified.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
really?
recent though, it's weird.
Brigid, you are too. You think about that a lot.
Me? I do?
Yeah, you told me that every time I leave the house.
Oh, that's anxiety though, that's different.
Oh, see, I correlate them as similar. Like I associate the past, like very suddenly, the past 3 years, pretty distinctively having fear and anxiety far more than I ever did. Like
Right.
a very big
Of
wave.
someone you love dying or you dying?
Both, yeah, which is weird because it wasn't, like I think of the things I used to do and I'm like, that, it literally wasn't
But
perfect.
that's what I'm saying, like anxiety changes how big that is in your mind. Now that I have anxiety mostly under control,
Mhm.
when you leave the house, I mean, when you used to leave the house, I would literally sit there and imagine every terrible thing that could happen to you. And I would like believe all of them. And that's why I'd always like call you and be like weird and not want you to leave without kissing me and stuff. Like, it just was like, how could he not die? You know what I mean? And to a point, that's true. There's a lot of things that could happen, but it's a huge thing in your mind as opposed to like the small thing that should be.
Right.
So, I don't know.
So that's a
Yeah.
different conversation, maybe.
Well, it's not
Anxiety.
like a different conversation, it just really affects
Mhm.
Right.
that. Like maybe you're not
Yeah.
so afraid of death, but you have a lot of anxiety and so it is big
Yeah.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've never actually related it like that. Like the anxiety being associated with it not being a part of our everyday conversation. Like, because I'm like, no, we're not going to talk about that. I don't want to have that in my mind.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you did talk about it more, it'd be easier to cope with.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But, oh wow, that's also scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to what you were saying before though about the, the whole being scared of dying thing. Today in Mass, the bishop was there and he was talking about these group of young men that were on their journey to becoming priests, and the Catholic Church loves those guys because they're gonna essentially they're like the well, I mean, like I'd say the Catholic Church is disproportionately stoked about young priests because like
Oh, young.
it's a whole different ballgame. You're
Right.
you're giving up everything as opposed to like, oh, I'm a priest but I also have a family and
Oh,
Yeah,
is
I
it just
can-
other religions?
Or like somebody being ordained at like 60.
No, but they can't have a family.
no, but like David Dwight at
Wait, they
the
can't?
preacher at
If
Hope.
they already did and then decide to be in the priesthood.
Well, that they can make an exception. Like the
Which
priest,
is really hard to do.
it's super rare. Yeah.
Okay.
Which, by the way, that
Yeah.
priest sitting across from us, across the way, he had I swear that was
I
like a
know,
kid.
I saw that. I
Yeah,
saw
it's
that.
like interesting. But anyway, so but anyway, long story short, he was like, these guys are never going to accomplish the American dream.
Oh, I love
They are
that.
never going to like get the things that most people in this room are striving for on a daily basis. Like they're never going to get the money. They're never going to get the what was the other one? It was money and the word he used.
Power, fame.
Power, yeah, they're never gonna have the power, and with that fame, and it was just so funny because I was just thinking about like my life and like the rat race, like
Mm-hmm.
the total American dream thing, and it was just so great to hear someone in a big room say the American dream is like not necessarily the best way to do it, and all these guys are never gonna achieve it, and it was almost like I was like jealous. I was
And
like,
they're celebrated for it.
yeah, yeah, and because they were.
Yeah.
Of course, he was tying it back to how, a lot of people, the greatest people inconvenienced themselves and kind of went out of their way to be less efficient or less
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
ambitious to make something great. But anyway, I like that. I was like, that sounds really nice. Not
Right.
so, but within the American dream, the reason I brought that up is because the American dream, you accrue all throughout your life as an individual,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and you build this like equity and wealth in your own personal life, and so like of course you're scared of dying. You are your own brand, you are your own business, and like
you've been collecting for years and years and years.
skills, relationships, like you know, who
That's
really
so
cares
true.
about your family? I mean, like that's kind of an extra bonus, but like it's really about you.
Mm-hmm.
And the opposite of that is like almost like I feel like David Brooks has written about this, but like the old way, which is like I'm less important than the we. The I is way less important than the we, and I'm just like one random person. And like what I do while I'm on Earth is not really important. It's mostly about like the causes that I'm being a part of, and like my tribe and all these things. But
That's sweet.
I mean, it's interesting though, because like you know him saying these guys are never gonna achieve the American dream. I was like, something about that sounds really right, because the American dream, like you know, of course we're scared to death. We're like our whole mindset is built around how far can I get as an individual, or even how far can my family
represents
get.
a cutoff point, where if you haven't made it by that time, you haven't made it.
No.
Yeah, yeah,
But that to me is before death.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you there, but it's still associated with it. I think it's associated with the inability to. It's associated with aging,
Yes,
where
exactly.
where you become less valuable as you age, which is kind of the opposite of a lot of traditional cultures, where it's like you've
Yeah.
accumulated decades of knowledge that these 30-year-olds have no fucking idea about,
Yeah.
and they should be listening to you
Right.
for some perspective, if not the answers. Like perspective is what we all need,
yeah,
and is what a lot of us lack. Is
Yeah.
understanding the long game.
We watched this movie last night that the dad, so the mom had like a brain tumor and was like about to die, and they were sort of all coming to grips with it, and the dad was like kind of apologizing to his son, like, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you more, blah, blah, blah. And he said, it's really scary. And the son was like, what's scary? And he's like, to realize this late in your life, like all the things you should have done, or the life you should have lived. And it was like so sad, because it did feel like, whoa, he really can't get there. Like right now, there's not much that we have a cap on. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like we have
Right.
any limitations. But then realizing like you need that freedom and you don't have it anymore.
That was the scariest thing about getting
So
married
sad.
for me.
Same.
Really?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
In a way, it felt like a cap.
Yeah,
Really?
there was like there's certain escape doors that have always been open that are now cut off,
Oh, gotcha.
to where like you're like, if this isn't how I think it is, I can always go do this, and then once you get married, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't just say, oh, I'm gonna go blacksmith in the woods for 2 months. See you later, honey. Hope you're okay with it.
or if I'm not the person I thought I was, like there's no more of that either. It's like
That's hard.
before I would have been like I'll learn, I'll grow and develop as a person, like kind of like at the right time whenever I need to.
Mhm.
And if I'm not like the guy I hoped I am, I'll get there. Whatever. Who's watching?
Now somebody's
I've
watching.
got two people who are very much invested in my characters. So it's like pretty fucking tense, you know.
Mhm. I think that was a cool part of marriage, right? It's like you have some accountability that you didn't have before. That you really gotta like think about how you're interacting with stuff and think about your reactions to things. You get called out on a bunch of stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's why it's so hard.
Um,
You never have a downtime. You never have like a,
Yeah.
no one's watching. Do weird things.
Or like
Whenever you leave the house.
hopefully you married somebody who's cool with your weird things.
Yeah. You know what I mean though, like
Yeah.
there's never, I don't know, you can't like mess up without being called on it because it affects someone else.
Hmm. The stakes are higher, which I don't think is a
You're
bad
just
thing.
always coming, you're
Mhm.
always being met with like, hey, this is you. This is like your
Yeah.
mirror, and you have to look at yourself for real all the time.
Yes.
Life is like a bonsai tree, right?
What is that?
What?
Bonsais.
I know what
Train
it
it.
is, but why is life like that?
What?
It's a very small tree.
It's,
Yeah, no,
that
I know
grows
a tree.
and it has infinite potential to be any number of shapes.
Really?
But the first cut, you start to shape it. And the second cut, you start to shape it. So marriage, shape. before you went to college, shape. Have a kid, you're shaping in a different way.
Yeah.
Right, marriage is almost like two bonsai trees had both been trained to go this way, and then they're like, let's go this way now. And so it's like,
Right.
it's like, you know, undo that snip, undo that snip, undo that snip,
But you
and you
can't.
go closer and closer.
That's the thing about a bonsai, is you can't.
No, I mean, it's in many ways true. We're two people who had completely different
Two separate
snips as we
bonsais.
grew up.
Yeah.
But if we're like well matched, we should be complementing the snips. I mean, we should.
Sure,
That
yeah.
shouldn't be like, it shouldn't be like, I pursued this in college, but now that I'm married, not anymore.
I think it's a good analogy though that he said it now that I said, because you got two trees, right? And they need to meet here, so this stuff needs to get snipped.
Does it though?
That's very true.
Well,
Sort of figuring that out.
I think pieces of it are always gonna be, and you
Yeah,
got you
it's the
can't snip
sacrifice.
this
You do
part.
have to sacrifice.
You can't
Yes.
snip this part
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
interconnected, and so you gotta figure out where you're. I don't know. I'm losing
No,
my
I hear
train.
you. I
like
hear
the
you, because there are
analogy, though.
things that you do have to lose, that you do have to sacrifice for the sake of the marriage.
Yeah, what does that book say about boundaries in the marriage?
In marriage, there's
Yeah.
actually a whole different book for it.
Oh.
Boundaries in marriage.
Actually,
Have not read that
I've
one.
like I was like writing about that, and it really quickly I was like, this is a different ballgame than like
Yeah.
boundaries with. I mean,
It's
same
completely
underlying
different.
concepts, but like yeah, the application. I was like,
No, because it's not, it's the same,
I
like,
don't know, this doesn't make sense.
it's the same practice, like it's the same setting up a boundary in the same way, but there should be different boundaries. There should be like less and more in like very different places, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Anyway.
Fascinating.
more on that when
We
Brigid
should,
gets to the next
yeah.
Plug.
I'm looking forward to hearing
Ah!
reading the review.
Yeah, oh my god. You should read Boundaries in Marriage though. You have,
Boundaries in mothers?
what, you do? Today, or yesterday, for the first time ever, we were sitting watching the movie, and I go, oh, can I have a little bit of your popsicle? And he goes, no thanks. Oh man!
Boundaries.
Is that what boundaries looks like?
Yes.
But like I honestly respected it. It wasn't like it was not, you were like setting it so well, because I'm always like, hey Ford, bring it on Oreo, or like I always take sips of his water.
Oh
like,
my gosh!
Every time
Oh,
he
like,
gets so annoyed.
without fail, it's like it's like I'm just so used to it, and I was
it
like,
annoys him every time.
and you asked me.
So you read
I was
this
like-
book and you put it in practice because of the book.
He didn't read it. He heard me talk about it.
Yeah, and also I was like, she asked me a question. She therefore she knows this is a yes or no question.
Right.
Therefore, no is a possibility just as much as yes.
But it was so much more like productive you saying no thank you than you saying yes and resenting me for like a day and a half. And then we finally get to talk about the popsicle.
Or I would have been like, well, I mean,
But then you resent me.
sure,
Right.
like buy my popsicle, like just can't you just go on yourself, like.
Exactly.
Oh my
Which is
God.
what you were
And like
basically
you're
saying.
gonna want more than one bite. It's just like
Actually, that's not true. I am not the mouse with the cookie. I always take
the moose
one
with the
sip of
muffin.
your water.
I don't know. You drink the whole thing sometimes.
If it is unattended and I think you're done with it. But if you have, a lot of times I just want one sip.
Anyway, regardless of my the validity of my attachment to my popsicle, I was having a moment with my popsicle, and
Yes,
I didn't
and I
want to
respect
share it.
that. I do. I was like, oh my gosh.
You did give me kind of like you were like, huh. Like you.
I thought it was being encouraging. I was like, wow.
Yeah, that's what you were like,
Yeah.
wow.
Because it was like funny and like amazing to me, but it was like my spirits weren't dampened.
I'm so
As
glad.
opposed to, like,
High five. I thought you were kind of pissed about it, and I almost said something.
you did?
Yeah, I was almost like, hey, like, is it
Oh,
popsicle?
see,
Do you want
that's
popsicle?
what it
I'm not gonna ask you to buy your popsicle. What popsicle?
And immediately slip into 5th grade.
Yeah.
Mine.
It's my popsicle.
My popsicle. No,
There's another
thanks.
one. Forget mine.
No, thank you, Bridget.
Yeah, we were so close, and it was kind of in front of Quinta too. So
I know. I was like,
Quinta, it's boundaries from the boundaries book, chapter 7.
yeah.
Popsicle boundaries.
Yes, I have popsicle boundaries and I'm sticking to them.
That is the title of chapter 7, right?
Right,
Popsicle
the
boundaries.
popsicle boundaries. I mean, I don't really have any boundary problems with you. Like I'm actually pretty good at saying no to you, for better or for worse. But yeah, we've talked about that. Like you should read the marriage one.
Have you guys ever seen Training Day with Denzel Washington?
No.
Oh my gosh! If you have, this is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
It's basically a young white guy gets paired with Denzel Washington, the old like kind of like the old seasoned cop, and it's Training Day. It's the story of one day. It's on Netflix. You have to see it. Like seriously,
Okay.
it won a bunch of Oscars. I mean, it's like or whatever. It's really
The
a good
Oscar is
movie.
correct.
It won a bunch of awards though, and but like there's this hilarious scene where like the new guy comes in and he's supposed to meet his boss, which is Denzel Washington. He's the badass cop in the diner.
The baddest?
The badass cop.
Oh.
And he sits down and Denzel Washington reads the paper, and he's like, the new guy's like, you're Denzel Washington the paper. He's like, hey, how's it going?
Oh, you sent me this clip.
And he looks up and he's like,
And he just keeps reading.
so what's on the menu? Anything good? And he keeps trying. Eventually, Denzel Washington's like, may I read my paper? And it's like such a great
He
line.
sent it to me and said, this is you in bed in the evenings with your books.
Totally. I sit down and I'm like, hello.
Yeah, you're like a little kid, you're like, hi. What was I about today? And I'm like, oh my god, I'm at like the
May I read my
book. Sometimes I literally
When you watch that movie, you'll crack up though.
Okay.
It's such a great scene. Sorry, go ahead. Sometimes.
No. Sometimes I'm so into my book I can't even say anything. I'm like, when he
That's
comes in
the
the room
English
because I
major
know
in
he's
you.
gonna do it, and I'm like, I cannot lose my flow. This is such a good scene. I'm dying. Don't even interrupt me.
We have a similar problem.
Yeah.
I just don't actually notice anything going on around me.
Oh.
Like Liana could be dancing in
Yeah.
like a tutu around me, and I would be like,
Right. Same.
it's like
Lots of
there's
fun.
been a couple hours where I've done that where Liana's like,
Hello.
have you noticed anything that's been going on?
Garrett.
Oh
And
my
like
gosh.
the-
I
the-
say his name and he
The
doesn't hear
fifth,
it.
the fifth one, I'm like, oh, hi.
Oh
I've been
my god.
noticing
That's
how
pretty impressive, folks.
we've been talking a lot about like our like family like dynamics of growing up, and how like for me like my home is always like my comfort and a safe space, and like for Garrett it's just a place and they always go and do. Huge thing that we're learning right now. And I realize like whenever he's reading, I'm like, I just think it's the most attractive thing when you're just sucked in the book. I just love it. And I realized yesterday,
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
we noticed yesterday it's because it's the only time I see you like
Relax.
relaxed in the house. The same way that my family like sits around and reads quietly.
Yeah.
And it's the only way I can keep him contained and content with me.
Yeah.
Which was like a huge point where I'm like,
Wow.
you just be in your world.
It
and
was,
I'll
it
be
was a
in
great
mine.
marriage discovery, that
It
conversation.
was huge.
I was like,
Sounds like
Totally.
yeah, because like my home was never like a place to hang out,
What do you
Yeah.
mean?
unless there were a lot of people in it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I
So
never
you-
just like hung out by myself in my house. It was super boring.
Me too. Yeah.
And so it was like a place to like drop my stuff off
Yeah.
and like venture out, meet people, maybe have people over, and that's fun.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
but it was
Yeah.
never
The
like
idea of being in the house all day is like
yeah,
you know,
mortifying.
end it.
Where I was like, I can never be bored in my home. Like,
Yeah.
never.
Oh, you're
Making
so right.
or like resting or doing,
We're
you
just
know.
not talking.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting discovery because it's been like we've been trying to figure out
Internal
weekends
struggle.
Yeah.
Well, so weekends are
tough.
hard.
Yeah.
because Liana wants to relax and I want
Yes.
to like go do things because I finally have time to do things.
But we've been
Um,
clarifying how my relaxing does not just mean sitting in the house and doing nothing. It can often mean like having a day to like walk somewhere or
No
like
plans.
yes, like the day pregnant with potential, like all weekend.
Yes.
Whereas like I've been calling them like weekends of nothing, and to Garrett that's a huge like
Yeah.
that actually stresses me out, you know. But like the weekend of
Why?
nothing
Let's
is
why does it
something.
stress you out?
Because I only got a couple 100,000 hours on this earth, and if I spend another one of them sitting on my tuchus, it's not a really great use of it.
Basically, you don't value
But-
resting, or you don't value like
Mhm.
that. You don't value being still.
But you can still do lots of things, right? Even if just because it's a weekend of nothing, sounds like you guys would still do stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you like making memories and doing things that are like new?
But even if
Yes,
you're making
I'm
memories, it's
constantly
still
seeking new experiences.
Yeah, we've got that same kind
And
of.
it's a struggle.
Yeah.
It's a struggle because you're like sameness is cool for like 2 days, and then 2 days like every 3 months, and
Sameness?
yeah, so like the like daily ritual of like waking up and having the same thing, and like being able, I'm appreciating it
Yeah.
as I go into it some more,
I know.
but it's still like there's still pieces of me that's like you're not living to your full potential right now. Like you're missing out on a lot of stuff that you could be experiencing together because we're choosing to stay at home instead of going to see people, or staying at home instead of going to go out. And if we're gonna cultivate a community, how are we gonna do that at home?
That's a big value.
So it was
Yeah.
it's that like constant struggle of trying to figure out how to like give myself a break, because I usually just go, and then like this past week I like went too hard for 3 months and then just like shut down for like a full week.
How did you shut down?
I just was tired at 8 p.m. and like didn't want to hang out, which is not a thing for me.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
so I just went I was like too many nights of not sleeping and too many nights of focusing on schoolwork and other shit that I didn't like really care about
Yeah.
like
That
deeply.
weren't fulfilling.
Right. And they're just tasks that I need to get done.
You guys did the grad school. You were in grad school for a while,
Yeah.
right? That was.
That was tough.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I was seeing it as like,
I
There's
honestly
100
don't remember it though, because I was pregnant. And I like try to think back and remember it, and I don't really. I feel like I like
Good
blacked
timing,
out
Corey.
for a little bit.
yeah, nailed it.
Yeah, I mean,
I
Probably
remember
poor
when you
timing for a
left.
lot of in the day,
Yeah.
but great timing for the long term.
Yeah. It's funny though, because like I remember it was hard, but I really cannot put specific memories to that time.
I remember
Wow.
working on or finalizing a PowerPoint deck from the hospital room when you were like about to go into labor.
What? Wow.
Yeah, because it was due like the next day, and no one on my team like was able to.
Oh, you told me about that. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your master's in?
IT management. Whatever that means.
It management.
Yeah.
I manage it.
Yes! Oh, that's good. Man.
But it was an interesting discussion and discovery.
Yeah. That is a really hard. We actually went through the same struggle because I don't like commitments at all. It is so stressful for me, and like.
We are going through that struggle.
Well, I do think we've like really. I mean, if you think about when we were first married, that was like constant agony. That was bad for a while because every weekend was a struggle, and it was like. Oh my gosh! But I mean, it'll be completely different for you guys, I'm sure.
It's pretty similar. It sounds like this
Yeah.
fall.
But we
Well,
didn't have, I'm not pregnant.
Well, yeah, that's true.
The thing that was really helpful that I wish someone had really like sat down and drilled into me right when we got married is like, okay, you're not gonna win. You're not, and you're not gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
No one is gonna win. How can you both win? Like, how can you both, like, there's not gonna be, you're not gonna get what you want, and you're not gonna get what you want.
But you
What's,
picked it a little.
like, stop for a second and think creatively on put the emotions aside, identify what exactly you want, and how can both people get what they want. And, like, I mean, how many times have we sat there with Katie and been like, I want blah, 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 and you're like, well, I want blah, 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 and she's like, well, why don't you do this, this, and this, and then he'll do this, and you do that, and then, like, won't that work? And we're like, yes. You know, and it's like, it's a very, like, you know, she's very, like, pretty aggressive when it comes to, like, you know, prescribing a solution, but as, like, so sometimes she kind of overprescribes, and it's like, yeah, you don't know all the kind of the nuances, but
Anyway.
the general idea is that like it's not that hard. Like that was like what she came up with in like 2 seconds, you know?
Right.
And it's like
It's thinking of it as a unit instead of as each other. It's like, how can we win? Rather than how can I win versus how can you win? It's like, what's best for both of us? Because honestly, if you don't think that way, neither of you are going to get what you want anyway.
I think that was our.
Might as well just do
I
it.
think that was our weekend conversation where we finally got to that point after, like, I guess it's been 6 months, almost
yeah.
like 3.
What? It's been 6 months?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Not that we've mastered it at all, but I feel like the conclusion of the grad school classes and the job change and all the things that happen in 6
And
months.
us having a break
Yeah.
from it all for a second
like, oh,
and
let's
have
reflect.
some like
To
perspective.
To have
Yeah.
margin in your life to talk.
Mhm.
That has been such a big thing for us because we are definitely overschedulers and we really only have intimate conversations and like close, like real conversations as friends when we are like well rested and completely, like honestly, most of it is spontaneous. So you have to have room for that.
Mhm.
Right.
Because really,
Yeah.
if you have everything planned out, you have no room for spontaneity, and it's stressful if it becomes spontaneous. But
that's kind of you projecting though. It's not for everyone, but I totally think that's like true for a lot of people.
yeah, well, anyway, even if it isn't stressful in the moment, you don't have margin for it,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah, we run into that problem quite a bit because I want to always talk it out, and then I was like, I need to go to sleep. It's 9. Shut up.
interesting. Yeah, it is good to sleep on your anger sometimes. That you don't like that.
Like sleep when you're angry.
I don't either.
Although our
Yeah.
counselor says 24 hours. You have, when you say, let's put it away, you have to like set the date and time. Because for him, he's like, great, this is gone. We're never going to talk about it again. It's not
Until
going
it
to
Yes.
bubbles up and turns into a bigger fight.
Yes.
So you have to come together and like put it on your calendar.
I remember in marriage counseling, Josh talked about that. Like
24
scheduling
hour.
a time to.
Yes.
We've done a great job of following his advice.
Yeah.
It's hard.
No,
it's easier
it's
said than
really
done.
like
Yeah.
to be
Schedule
told it
time,
a
like
million times.
put it on your calendar.
Yeah.
I talk
We
about
also
like
just don't want
how to
to
decorate the Christmas tree. Like really, you need to put this on the fucking calendar. It's like yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
When else are you gonna talk about it? Like,
Right?
both parties would probably love to just like avoid this conflict, but like, or one party would really like to avoid it, and the other party like doesn't want to have to like convince the other to like talk about it. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, yeah, put it on the calendar.
Totally.
Yeah.
That made it.
And also what she said was rate it. So like, if you want to do something and you want to do something, you say, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, for me, it's a 6. On a scale of 1 to 10, for me, it's a 1, or it's a 10, or whatever it is. And if, you know, I know we did this differently this weekend, but I feel like it's sort of whoever's highest. Okay, I know that this has like corruption possibilities, but, but basically it's like
That's how you know when someone's about to propose a completely corrupt idea.
okay.
This might be corruptible,
But
but
it's kind of like who, if someone really doesn't want to do it or really wants to do it, I don't know, I feel like you should just do that one. I mean, at the same time, you should, in theory, it makes sense to do both. But for instance, for us this weekend, we couldn't do both. And so it was like
Both do like 2 events.
2 events at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it was like, we just had to choose one, yeah, and so, but it's really hard
sometimes-
in general to rate it, and
But-
just be like, not like I want it, I don't want it, it's like, I don't know, it just like breaks it down so much more
Concretely.
you got a Likert scale survey you can fill out. 1 to
Yeah.
5.
exactly.
But like, I mean, you could say, hey, Garrett, like, part of it is of like holding each other loosely, and it's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
being able to say, you know, hey Ford, go
Yeah.
to UVR and work out and have some like you time, or like, you know, Ford, go to this party and just like go and enjoy it, and like, you know, bring Thaddeus or not, like I'll enjoy my time here, and you know, like Garrett,
Yeah.
go do this thing socially, and I'll hang out at the house and like have a great
Yes,
time, and
definitely.
like think about it, like, so what would you do if you were not married?
Mm-hmm.
I guess the fallacy maybe going into marriage was that, oh my gosh, I found the person who wants to do everything that I want to do when I want to do it. It's my new sidekick. And it's like the other
It's
person,
not true.
and the other person is probably thinking, oh, she's my sidekick, and he's like, oh, she's my sidekick, and it's like,
You are
so
so
who's
right.
the,
Yes.
so it's like being able to say, you go do your thing, I'll go do my thing, and like,
It's
like the Cleo Gibran thing. It's like they say, you shouldn't be two people, and this is very like woo-woo, but you shouldn't be two intertwined, almost like two intertwined bonsai trees. You should be more so,
like running together.
yeah, I think his analogy was two sailboats, like sailing right next to each other on the same wind.
Yeah, we that's,
What a weekend. It's been all of this discovery.
I
this
know,
weekend.
it's crazy.
This subject is what came up yesterday.
It's good that you're talking
Yeah.
about it again though, to like
Huge.
sort of solidify it.
Mhm.
Really,
And with other
okay.
people to know
Yeah.
that we're not just crazy.
Absolutely.
Well, we may all be crazy.
Yeah.
No.
We're in it together.
At least we're crazy
Well, we're in it together.
as
on that.
not just ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like breaking down like, okay, so there's like 100%
Crazy kitty.
of Garrett's time and 100% of Liana's time. Like I happen to be in this very funny place. My first year of marriage also being the least busy I ever am because of the job change. Like teaching kindergarten, 100% effort at school, little effort at home. I don't
so you
take work
have
home.
lessons plans. Yeah.
So I like didn't need that time that I had to like guard. So I have like 60% of my effort in my week is towards work. Where Garrett was like 60% of his effort is towards work, and then another 35 towards school, and then another 5 towards homework. So Garrett has like 7.5% available space, and I have like 40%. Oh, add some
Yeah.
working out. Like I've just got a whole lot more
Because
percentage.
he's almost moonlighting
Yeah.
in heaven all the time in the world
Which
after
is
work.
super humbling because that's not always how it's been.
Mm-hmm.
But then you like look at how those like line up, and it is like a priority thing. So it made us like step back and be like, okay, like what needs to be a priority next semester?
Right. Like how do we schedule things that give each of us fulfillment as a person? And if they are with each other, awesome. And if they're not, we need to be okay with it.
Absolutely.
But also scheduling the time.
To be together, yeah.
We actually have to
Yes.
schedule.
True.
So-
True. I
So
feel
what is our technique? This next month do like one night?
Yeah, we're like breaking down. Who knows if it'll work, but we're the gym, the rock climbing gym. We're gonna like pick a night of like doing something.
Liana's gonna
together.
join me there.
Mhm.
cool.
Add her to my membership, and we're
Mhm.
gonna do that together because I need that.
I love that, and you have
Yeah.
to pay for it, so you will do it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It was one. I think the key thing for me was when we were talking about this. I had just spent like 2 hours cleaning and sweeping while Liana was napping, so I like had finally had a chance to like. So like most of my work, like probably both of your works, is very mentally taxing. It's not physically taxing.
Totally.
And then you add grad school, which is also mentally taxing, to it, and you have a little bit of space to like work out to keep yourself from being a fat slob, and then, but that doesn't give you the space
Like
to.
Eric talks to himself.
So I love to myself too. It's so funny.
Tough
I'm
love.
so mean to myself sometimes.
Yeah,
Just working out.
it motivates me.
So,
I think today I was like, oh, you look good, babe. And he was like, no. Or I was like, you look great. You look great. And he was like, no.
I'm fat. And
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I look good. I'll be great in like 2 months.
Yeah. I was like, I could never say that to myself.
That's so funny. And you can all say you guys are hard on yourself. We're hard on ourselves too.
Yeah. In a different way.
Yeah, it's just not emotionally draining for us to be hard on ourselves.
Sure, yeah.
So, whereas I think.
Sorry
it
I
can
cut
be-
you off.
No, it's all right. So having all those mentally taxing pieces built together, I realized this morning after sleeping for 2 hours and being able to finally process all of these thoughts because I was doing a mindless task with my body and being able to like just be like at a not a crisis level in my head.
It's a lot of sweeping, Garrett.
I know, I was like, how
Garrett
did you sweep
really
this
love
part
this
this
week.
week?
Well, no, it was like washing dishes.
No, I know.
Put
I'm
in-
just
put
kidding.
in
I'm sure
dishes,
it's a
I-
bunch of stuff.
It was like a deep clean of the kitchen and then a sweep of the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
And it was, yeah, and Liana was sleeping, so I wasn't talking.
Yeah.
I usually do the deep clean, just to be clear.
I know, I was like,
Yeah,
this is interesting.
I know. I
This
woke
is
up and I was
different.
like, I love you.
Yeah. That's really my
The
life.
kitchen
Yeah.
is like my zone, and the rest of it's Liana's to keep clean, and
Gosh,
Liana will
yeah.
do the like deeper cleans. For
Yeah, our
Do the tiny-
standards are much different for cleanliness. Like,
We have a lot less
you,
space.
you do the dishes without wiping the counters and without sweeping.
Okay, let's not get off the rails here. Garrett was in the middle of.
No, I'm
really
just saying you have to
interesting-
recognize that my standards, you have to like tell them what your standards are,
That's true.
or
Yeah.
they don't know. You know what I
This
mean?
is why I always wash dishes, and Liana deep cleans the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because Liana doesn't like the sponge.
Ah! What?
So she'll just like rinse the bowl out, and I'll pull it out, and just like.
Oh, that
I
is.
gotta
Oh,
wash
you
it
guys don't
again.
have a.
We do have a dishwasher.
Oh God, thank God.
But there's
I
no
just
toilet,
don't- I
like,
don't
it
use
just,
it.
we don't,
So if everyone prank you, like throw like a wet sponge in your
Yeah.
like under your
On
bed
your
pillow.
face.
the smell of like, I'm washing
She's
my
like,
hands
it gets
all
on your,
day.
it gets on your fingers, and you just smell it. I was like, why are you touching your face so much? But,
Anyway,
Oh my god, you get on your ears, you smell it. You're so funny. I'm sorry. That's just
but we have like,
hilarious.
we have 4 bowls and 4 plates, so there's no point using a dishwasher.
Gotcha.
yeah,
You have
and
4 bowls and 4 plates.
I protest dishwashers. So
We have a very small apartment.
yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, beside the point. What were
I
we
think
saying?
you're the only one that uses the dishwasher. I think I have not used it once since
Yeah.
we've been in the
I use it
house.
when we entertain and use all
Yeah.
8 dishes.
Yeah. Honestly.
That's a good amount to give in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah.
to your credit.
I love the dishwasher.
Alright, so we are getting way
Yeah.
off the rails. Garrett
Anyway.
was telling, he was building up
What
to
were
this
you doing
moment
during your,
when
your
you were.
tasks?
Yes.
Yeah, so during the task, I had like a moment for my brain to finally like not be in crisis mode or response mode,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to have that space to process. And I realized what has happened and what's made me like discontent is I used to have that space on like the daily or on a weekly basis, and because we've been so busy and it's all mental work now. So like in AmeriCorps, a lot of it was physical, and I tend to think while I was doing stuff, but you can't like
Totally.
think about
Yeah.
life while you're planning an event, or you
No,
can't think about
absolutely
life while you're
You can't use your brain in 2 ways.
yeah. So it was that moment where I was like, oh, like that's really what I'm lacking. I'm doing a very mentally taxing job and adding grad school on it, and that's why I'm upset. Is because I need that physical activity to process. I can't sit and think.
So like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I need to do stuff to think, but it needs to not be mentally active
Yes.
stuff.
I can tell many
Such a
times
brain
I've
blocker.
left the house like sometimes at this point Rachel sometimes be like, dude, can you go on a run? Like
Oh
you're,
yes.
because I'll just be like
Antsy.
Yeah, and just kind of like irritable.
So antsy.
and like so ideally I work out during lunch at work,
Mhm.
which like makes me so much better in the evening.
Right.
Just like be like you
In
know
a wonderful way.
yeah, and so but sometimes like it's funny when I can't tell you how many times, Brigid, I've never told you this. I'll go on a run and
I don't want those 2 to go down. These 2 won't go down in a week.
midway through the run, I'll like start thinking about all the nice things I can do for you, like and like the
Right.
like and like but like I have to be like almost 3/4 to halfway through my run, and then I'll like start to be like I am so happy I'm on this run. Like what? How can I like what
Here
are some
I
like
am
nice
on
things I
this
can do when I
run.
get back to the house to make everything like nice and beautiful and sweet. And it's just so funny that it's like I'll leave the run like oh, shit. Start running, and then I'll like slowly like unwind. And by the time I'm like on my way back, you know,
Aw.
I'm like thinking about like you know, because that's all
Right.
it was. It was that part of me that wasn't satisfied, and once that's satisfied,
Wow.
that's really all it was. There wasn't anything underneath it. And of the all right, I feel better. We're good.
Yeah.
I gotta help. I'm
Exactly.
here. You know,
That is literally why it's like I've literally pushed
it's
you
crazy.
out the door before. Like
I'm so glad you
leave.
like know that about me though now, and I don't have to like justify it. 'Cause
Well, we
if I had to
took a
explain
while to
it,
figure
it would
that
never
out.
work.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
took me until this moment, as of yesterday, to be like, oh,
I need to
that's
work
what
out.
I really need.
Yeah.
It's not even work out necessarily.
Physical. Yeah.
But it's like you have like
You
so on
can't
a run.
sit still. So you have to think.
Right.
You have to move.
So like rock climbing, I'm
Yes.
only thinking about the next hold, which doesn't
Mhm.
take much mental capacity,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm able to like really be like, oh, like what is going on
Yeah.
in my head right now? Where's my space at? How am I feeling as a person?
Yeah.
And so it was
So what are you just gonna rock climb more, or are you doing something different?
I think I am, we talked about this today, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 75% leaning towards only taking one class this semester, not two, because it's too much. It's like 4 nights a week where I'm in class or doing homework. And then if there's a big project, there's another 2 nights of the full week. So
Right.
it's like 6 nights a week where I'm doing work.
Actually, now that you say that, I do remember thinking, do you always have a project?
Yes.
Like, always. Anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, and it feels like it too when you're in it.
Because it's true.
Yeah,
Because that's, you literally
you
always
do always have a project.
Yeah.
Literally, I mean, there's like a week when you start a new module, when you're on project,
Yeah,
but you kind of still do a project, because, you know.
Yeah.
and this semester, that one class,
You went to grad school too.
Yeah, but it was my full-time job. Like,
Right.
I was in
No,
it
but
for a
it's
year.
just,
You were
I'm
a
like,
student.
what? I'm the only one here that hasn't
Yeah.
been to grad school. We are an educated circle.
Or you're the smart one, who knows? Yet to be determined.
I know, I was gonna say, you could just.
Actually, I think I'm the only one who paid for, I know you paid for your grad school.
Still pay.
Seriously.
I'll just embrace the dance on this
Yeah,
one.
you're-
I saw a
Free.
hilarious sign the other day.
I said I'll just embrace
Today
the
actually
dance
downtown,
on
it
this
was,
Get grad school for free.
I knew just like, get sick, it was like,
Honestly,
graduate in 4 years, save
that's our biggest debt.
$50,000.
Grad school.
And it was like trying to encourage kids to graduate in 4 years, and I was like,
Oh
oh,
my.
you guys have no fucking clue what it's like once you graduate. You will be paying up the ass for every laziness.
That's a terrible phrase.
Yeah.
You will be paying like
So the day you
crazy.
die.
Yeah. Every cup of coffee will
Yeah,
cost
that's a really vulgar
percent
phrase.
Hanging out the ass.
No, I said up.
Oh,
Yeah, that is what you said. What did you say?
out the ass.
Anyway,
Be crapping
you
dollars.
pay like a big ass for
Oh my god, this has gotta stop.
yeah. Anyway, so
Some lightheartedness.
college tuition, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, I heard I looked at an interesting graph the other day of the trajectory of college debt increasing and the decrease in students buying homes.
Yeah, it's
And of course the credit structure has changed after the recession, or the housing crisis. But it is kind of interesting.
Still parallel.
It's actually that actually would work against that correlation, because it'd be even easier to get a loan as a student, whereas this is saying it's become harder and harder and harder for students to get houses.
Well, I think that people are choosing not to buy houses because they can't add debt no matter how easy it is to acquire.
Or yeah, they literally don't have the space,
Totally,
they don't
yeah.
have any money.
Like,
Yeah.
Down payment money, yeah. Because there's that crunch of like,
Well, you don't have to have a down payment, that's like the scariest thing, it's like,
as a
yeah.
first-time buyer, you don't, but you also get a 40-year mortgage on that, and you gotta pay insurance, which is stupid.
oh, I mean, obviously, it's a terrible,
Well,
terrible
yeah, I mean,
thing.
Would you guys
I would make me pay PMI
Yeah,
if I had no credit history whatsoever, or no legitimate credit history, like, you know, and I couldn't pay a down payment. Why can't you pay a down payment, dude? Like,
Yeah.
kind of suspicious. I'm gonna make you pay PMI,
that's fair.
and you can refinance afterwards and get it dropped.
If you guys could take a step back to 2.5 years, how long have you owned this home?
Almost 3.
3?
More than 3.
We've been
We're
married
going on to
for
We're going on to 4 years married.
no, we're going to 3. Our 3rd anniversary is gonna be
2013, and now it's 2016. No, we're going on to
Yeah.
4 years.
You're
No,
almost
I thought we just celebrated our 2nd anniversary.
Third, dude.
Is it our 3rd?
3.5. You're at 3.5.
3 would ring a
Right,
bell
yeah.
more. Wow. All right, hold on, just from
No,
Would you-
that's right.
Yeah.
I missed
right.
it because I was in AmeriCorps.
Yeah.
I know it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm glad you all agree.
All right. I'm not
Anyway.
gonna. I haven't agreed to this
Would you have?
4 thing yet. 3-4 year thing yet.
It's in July, right?
Would you have bought your house? Like, do you regret, or do you?
Such an interesting question,
Mhm.
Liana, because we have like confirmation bias, or basically when you've made a choice, you have like, you automatically tell yourself that it was the right choice, which is actually very handy. But, so to me, there are so many reasons why this was a perfect house for us to buy, but where we are with debt right now, I mean, I would not recommend you guys buy. I wouldn't recommend the old me, I wouldn't recommend me today buy. But honestly, in some ways, I am really glad we bought this house because it was a foreclosure. It was so damn cheap. When we see the like comps, like
Yeah, if we
houses
cashed out
are-
today, it'd be like we'd pay off
Huge
all of our
money.
debt and it'd be awesome.
wow. Oh yeah. I mean,
Wow.
it's like more than
We could pay
double
all
the
of- we could-
price.
Yeah, I mean it's like our house has increased like almost 100K in value. I mean like it's
More than that, babe.
no, not more than that.
Wow.
Oh really?
Almost that.
With all the work you've put in.
Oh, you know
No.
what? Right, Brigid, you're
Just,
right.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Okay. I was like.
Yeah, way more than that.
Yeah.
I remember the ad you posted a couple months ago. You were like, anyone want to be our neighbors? And I looked, what, right? Like
Yes.
370 or
Yeah,
something?
and ours was 170. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, is it was
168.
anyway, it was so great that we bought, and it's not the work we've done, it's
Uh-huh.
it's that the time has changed.